Welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast with your hosts Griffin Palmer, CJ Hickman, Jason Cabrera, and Ryan Mitchell.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Tuesday, June 20th. This is the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast. I'm your host, Griffin Palmer, joined as always over the phone by CJ the Hitman Hickman and Jason Cabrera. What's up, guys?
Oh, yeah.
No commercial?
Energy.
I was waiting for a commercial. I thought Griffin's going to be like, I'm wearing a new shirt that I just got from a store I'm not going to name. It's pretty awesome. Something like that.
I am wearing a Tim Drake Red Robin shirt right now, so that's pretty exciting to me. Original universe, not New 52, not Rebirth. Original universe, Red Robin. So pretty cool. Feel pretty good about it.
That's legit.
Yeah,
I'll take that. That's awesome.
All right, so good start right there.
Today's show has been brought to you by military sensitivity training. You will be sensitive or we will kill you.
Alrighty then.
Yikes.
There you go.
Anyway, so
Oh my gosh.
a little bit of Jason's Army background there. All right. Well, anyway, back to the show. We have an amazing show for you guys today. Today we're going to be diving into the mailbag, as we mentioned at the end of last week's show. We're diving into a specific league manager type mailbag. So we sifted through, found a couple ones that we thought fit the bill and should be a lot of fun. We also, of course, are going to bring you the top 100 reveals from last night, all the top headlines from around the league. The works. So, as always, please make sure you guys subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, YouTube, The Works. Give us a thumbs up, give us a like, wherever. Subscribe to the show on Twitter, at the FF Fanatics, the easiest way to get a hold of us and keep up to date with us. You can join the community on Facebook at facebook.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics, or you can head over to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Get yourself bonus episodes. If, hearing us twice a week isn't enough for you, you can get that third episode, which is usually much more advanced, every single week. Again, patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Other perks as well. And finally, as always, going to keep reminding you, the Listener League Review Challenge is live. If you think you can beat us in fantasy football and you want to have a shot to compete against us in a league of your choosing, the format of the league is up in the air for you guys to vote on. Head over to iTunes, give us a rating, give us a review. It doesn't have to be 5 stars, though we greatly appreciate that because those reviews drastically help the show more than really anything else that we could be doing right now. So head over to iTunes, ratings, reviews, and you are entered to be randomly selected to play against us in a fantasy football league this year. We will be selecting names in August. So, hey, bring it on. And,
Bring it all.
Indeed. So with that, bookkeeping done, let's move on to our warm-up question of the day. Now, this comes in from Rex on Twitter, and he asks, how hard is it for you guys to draft against each other? Obviously, we know each other's rankings. We do mock drafts together all off-season long. We talk football all off-season long. We have a level of contact with each other that is unprecedented amongst people who play against each other in leagues and, such and such. So what are you guys' thoughts here?
Well, me personally, I like to conspire against my my co-hosts here. So the people that are drafting with us. So I already know Griffin pretty well. He tries to slight me a lot and say, I'm better than this, or if CJ, you're just scoping off my rankings. That's the only way you're getting better. So I use that against him, and I like to get other people to. He's not that hard to dislike. So the other people there, they just basically just play into my little game, and then I get
much more real than I was.
Then I just get to Griffin get frustrated, and then have him overspin. Because most of our leagues that we do auction style, and that basically goes from there. Then Jason,
I'm sorry, I overspend.
He's a little difficult to to get under his skin. So I use the other people that are in our league with us to get on Jason. So, basically that's how I play the game. I just like to be a little puppeteer.
CJ likes to be the puppet master and manipulating the draft and trying to work his way around and stuff.
Pretty much.
Okay.
And by be puppet master, he really just kind of sits in the corner and instigates everybody. You know what he said about you?
Good.
You know what he said? I wouldn't take it.
Good.
And then he throws temper
tantrums.
tantrums.
Oh, snap, son. You
heard
him, son?
Beetle from, he's like that Beetle from Family Guy.
Yeah. He's
Good. Or you just start nominating players he likes, and then he gets really frustrated, and then he's the one that's really overspending. Go ahead, Jason.
I'm too smart. I'm too smart for that this year, man.
Don't lie to them. This year. Okay. Jason, go ahead.
For me, this is going to be a little bit of a different situation this year because I started later with this than these guys. I mean, I did talk to these guys a little bit before our other drafts, and I know them pretty well. We've spent a lot of time together in the past, so know each other pretty well. The bottom line is it's really the same thing as really going against anybody, because you got to stick to your board. You got to stick to your budget, and you got to do it right. And really, this makes you be better. It really does. Getting to know each other the way we have, it makes you be better. I mean, I've improved pretty much every year since I joined the league, and I was finally able to win last year overall the league. So, I mean, yeah, it's hard because these guys know their stuff, and they know your likes and dislikes, and we talk about it twice a week, every week. So it's going to be an interesting draft this year for me because it's the first time that I've been a part of this process with these guys.
Yeah. I would give Griffin absolutely no credit. He did not make me better.
I
made myself better.
CJ, the evidence is damning, is all I can say.
No, it's not.
It's not, and it's not, guys. It's not Griffin who's making you better. It's the being part of the show and talking this and talking through the stats and listening to different strategies. I mean, my very first year, the first person I drafted was a quarterback. The very first person. That did not happen last year. So just took me 3 years to figure that one out.
I'll go with plan B. I like option B a lot better than giving Griffin credit.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, Jason, you really did wild card it because that was also your first auction draft.
I did.
But it's one of those things where that's why I don't think it's incredibly difficult, because though we know each other's players. I just finished playing some Tekken. We know each other's players, so we know who each other likes. We know who can maybe bid up a little bit because we primarily do auction style drafting, and that's kind of the flip side of the coin. Almost everything we do here, being that this is the main show and we try to appeal to the masses, we're doing mostly like snake drafts and things like that. So it doesn't have too much of an overlap. And like Jason said, because it is more competitive, it makes it so much more fun. I win so many leagues every single year, and half of them are like friends and family leagues that aren't even competitive, and they don't even register on your radar. The ones that you devote your time and your energy to are the ones that have stiff competition, and those are the ones that are more fun to play in and more gratifying. So yes, it is difficult, especially when it comes to these two, and Ryan when he is around. For those of you who've been with the show for a very long time, yeah, Ryan, the guy who was here very consistently and then kind of disappeared into the wind. And the rest of the guys in that league, we all know each other very well. We've been playing fantasy football against each other for a very long time, so it's difficult, but it's a lot of fun. And again, auction style drafting, which we'll get to. Go ahead.
And a really good example of that is the three members of this show, being Griffin, CJ, and I. CJ and I were in the championship game last year, and Griffin was undefeated through the regular season except for one loss to me.
Yep.
So
when AJ Green went down, that was a rough week.
And that crucial loss that got him to sit down
in the playoffs to CJ.
Yeah.
So there you go. And so that just goes to show. I mean, once you listen to this show, you get involved in this show, it will improve your play.
There you go. Well, that's the goal. That's the dream. So yeah, hopefully that was entertaining for you guys to hear the explanation. So let's go ahead and move on to our top headlines from around the league. As always, we're going to start off with the NFL Top 100 from last night, numbers 20 through 11. Number 20 was Luke Kuechly, linebacker for the Carolina Panthers. He was number 7 a year ago. He dropped a little bit, but obviously he missed a good portion of the season. Number 19, Patrick Peterson, moving down one spot, cornerback from Arizona. He was 18 a year ago. Number 18 was Tyron Smith, offensive tackle for the Dallas Cowboys. He moved up from 42 a year ago. I think that's beyond well-deserved. Best left tackle in the league. Number 17, A.J. Green, wide receiver, Cincinnati. He moved down one spot from 16 a year ago. Number 16, Drew Brees, quarterback, New Orleans, moved up from 30 a year ago. Number 15, Aaron Donald, defensive tackle from the Los Angeles Chargers. He was 14 a year ago, so he moved down one spot. Number 14, Dak Prescott, rookie quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. It's a big splash onto the list. Number 13, Eric Berry, safety for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was 55 a year ago. Big jump there. Number 12, okay, David Johnson. Yeah, this one, I was really surprised. Out of all of these names, this one caught me off guard the most.
Disrespectful.
Yep, running back, Arizona Cardinals, unrated obviously a year ago. He didn't have a huge workload back in 2015. And number 11, Derek Carr, quarterback for the Oakland Raiders. He was unrated just a year ago. So guys, tell me about this list.
Well, first first and foremost, I'm a little confused with AJ Green's stats here. I mean, I know we talked about this a little before the show started. I felt like he should have been in the high 20s versus at 17. I mean, look, the guy missed a lot of games. I don't get this.
So
but I
did
understand
Luke
this is a popular vote. You know what I mean? But that's just a little mind-boggling to me. But let's get on to the players I really like. Aaron Donald is a guy that I've been just drooling over ever since he came into the NFL. He is an IDP monster. I love having him on my team, and I will spend reasonable money because I know this might be used against me later on. Reasonable money on him, so I will not. That's as far as I'll go with that. Dak Prescott, I called it. I called that man. I said that dude is going to be a beast. No, one of these guys didn't really believe in me because his whole little quarterback streaming thing and rookie quarterback, whatever. Dak Prescott went out there, did that thing. I appreciate you.
What are you
Eric
talking
Berry,
about?
love him. Absolutely love that dude. He's ridiculous. And then Derek Carr. I just knew it was a matter of time. A matter of time for this dude to get respected. This guy he had a magical season with the Raiders last year, brought them to legitimacy, and they're playing absolutely incredible ball. Now you're adding beast mode to them. This is going to be a phenomenal year for the Raiders, man. But those are just a couple guys that stood out to me.
You realize that Dak Prescott played exactly into my style of drafting because he was going in the 12th round last year, right?
Yeah. But you ain't drafting. You ain't get him.
I'm just saying, your argument actually validated what I've been preaching this whole time, not what you're doing.
This is really what we're gonna do. We're gonna validate that Griffin was right.
Hey,
No,
that's what he just
was
did.
wrong.
Jason,
He
by all
was
means.
talking crap about it the whole time.
No, I wasn't.
Number 20, Luke Kuechly. I am a fan of Luke Kuechly. I freaking love this guy. His sideline-to-sideline ability is second to none in the NFL. He is pretty much the bar right now as far as inside linebackers go. Big hitter. I had him in IDP. I've had him the last 2 years in IDP. Never regretted it. Even when he missed games, he always came back and made up for it later. So love me some Luke Kuechly. Patrick Peterson. Now, if you listened to our little Patreon teaser show that we put out about talking about IDP players and things like that, Patrick Peterson is a fantastic corner, but you should never, ever draft him on your team in IDP. He is a corner that no one throws at because if you throw at him, he's going to catch it. So quarterbacks don't throw the ball, so he's not a big point getter. So you should steer clear of him on your teams. However, he is a fantastic corner. He's the best corner in the football, in my opinion, right now. Of course, I might be a little bit biased. Drew Brees, I mean, come on. How many quarterbacks can say they've thrown 5,000 yards or more multiple seasons? Just one, Drew Brees. Eric Berry already got mentioned, but I'm also a fan of this guy. He's a beast, absolute monster. And now we'll talk about a guy that I'm just really just not happy about his placement on this list, okay? Come on.
Get him,
David
Jason.
Johnson at number 12. Really? 2,000 total yards. 20 touchdowns. Nobody scored more touchdowns than David Johnson last year. This guy was the entire Arizona offense pretty much through most of the season. The guy is an absolute monster. And there's not a better word than monster, otherwise I would use it. Okay, so the fact that he is not in the top 10 is just disrespectful. And the fact that Le'Veon Bell got up in there and he missed some games? Come on, I mean, hey, Le'Veon Bell's great, and he deserves to be in the top 10. But he missed some games. David Johnson played every game except the last one. You know, Ezekiel Elliott, he deserves to be in the top, and we'll talk about these guys. But come on, David Johnson deserves to be in the top 10. No one had a more phenomenal season than this guy.
Hasn't gotten the respect of his peers, apparently, in this popularity contest.
Apparently.
He'll get there next year, though, Jason. He'll get there.
Yeah, Luke
I would
Kuechly
hope.
in the top 10, like he finished 7th last year. If he can stay healthy, you can easily say that's where he should be. So, obviously, well done.
Oh, yeah.
Like you said, with Patrick Peterson, yeah, I mean, I was looking at the list as you said that. He didn't finish in the top 50 at corner. Because, again, nobody throws at him. I was wondering if all of his interceptions and returns and touchdowns got him into anywhere in the rankings, but no, that was not enough.
Well, you know what's interesting about Patrick Peterson is that he ranked number 19 last year, and that was after a year of dealing with diabetes that he didn't even realize he had, and he had gained some weight, and he didn't play that great, you know, and then so he actually went down a ranking this year, and he had a fantastic season. So that just goes to show you this list is not scientific by any stretch of the imagination.
And he had a couple of rookies jump up ahead of him. So, yeah, well, what are you going to do? Like we said, Tyron Smith, probably the best left tackle in the league. A.J. Green missed a lot of the season, but, we all know what he is. Drew Brees, he's thrown for 5,000 yards 5 times, and there's only 9 players to have done it, and he's done 5 of them. Like CJ said, all you need to say about Aaron Donald. We talked about him quite a bit on our Patreon show, talking about defensive linemen. Dak Prescott, enough said. Eric Berry, amazing safety, great comeback story. David Johnson, disrespectful where he is at 12. And, Derek Carr, a great and very talented young and up-and-coming quarterback. So, great list. And now I put together this list of who we think the top 10 is going to be. We think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, Le'Veon Bell, Ezekiel Elliott, Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham Jr., Julio Jones, Khalil Mack, and Von Miller. You guys agree with this list?
Yeah.
Not really.
Not really?
I agree with the players, but the placement, no.
I was
going to say, who are we missing? Yeah.
No,
we agree that these are the names we're going
Carson
to
Wentz.
hear.
Yeah.
Okay,
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Get out of here, Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz.
Do you guys want to take a stab at where you think these guys will finish, or because it's a crazy popularity contest with no real statistical backing, you just kind of want to move on?
Let's just move on.
Okay. All right. I would like to call it, but you guys don't know.
I'm sorry. Go ahead,
for it, CJ.
Go ahead. Do it.
Well, okay. All right. So this is how I see it. I see Julio Jones being at 10. I got Von Miller at 9. Khalil Mack at 8. I'm going to go I'm going to go Matt Ryan at 7. I'm going to go OBJ at 6. I'm going to go Le'Veon Bell at 5. Ezekiel Elliott at 4. Tony Brown at 3. Tom Brady at 2. Aaron Rodgers at 1.
That's not horrible. Not a horrible look at it. I think Tom Brady is going to finish number 1 just because of the championship and
the overtime,
how many championships he's won and all that stuff. I think he's and again, we've mentioned it several times. The guy played lights out last year and he missed 4 games. And if he had played those 4 games, he'd have been even better.
Yeah.
Statistically, anyway.
Would have finished as the number 2 quarterback in fantasy if he'd played a full season.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I think Tom Brady will go number 1. I would not be surprised if Aaron Rodgers went number 2. I think probably looking at Antonio Brown as number 3, Le'Veon Bell 4, Elliott number 5, Odell Beckham Jr. number 6, Khalil Mack, Von Miller. Did I miss somebody? Julio Jones, right?
Yeah.
I think it's everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't bother because we'll just move on. But one thing I do want to point out, like we said last year, Cam Newton, even though he lost even though they lost the Super Bowl, he was the MVP and he placed at the top of this list. So I'm thinking that it'll probably be Tom Brady, Matt Ryan at the top, and then Aaron Rodgers. I think it's going to be those 3 quarterbacks at the top, honestly, because we all know Aaron Rodgers, especially for our purposes here in fantasy, he's the best. He's the tops. He's the best quarterback out there. But it's a popularity vote. Matt Ryan and Tom Brady were in the Super Bowl. One of them won MVP. One of them won the Super Bowl. So I have to imagine it's going to be probably those 2 at the top. Though I wouldn't be surprised at all if it wasn't. So just putting that out there. So let's move on. No quarterback news. We're going to move into some running back news. Where ESPN James Walker reports that Jay Ajayi looks, quote, much smoother running routes and finishing receptions this offseason, end quote.
Best shape of his life.
Best shape of his life. This is the offseason narrative, and I have a couple thoughts about this. For starters, every single bit of news we have heard coming out of Miami has been hyping up everybody. This is going to be, if they live up to the hype that they're getting right now, this is going to be a record-setting offense, and I don't believe they have the pieces for that, especially with Ryan Tannehill under center. I think this has the potential to be a good and surprising offense, but I don't think this is going to be, a team that's going to shatter the numbers that Atlanta put up last year, for instance. So, that all being said, I like what I'm hearing here because we already heard that Jay Ajayi is going to be getting potentially an extra 100 carries, which would put him over the carry total that David Johnson even had last year. No, I think higher than Ezekiel Elliott even had last year. So that's exciting. That's an exciting workload for fantasy. And if this news turns out to be true, much smoother running routes and finishing receptions. He gets more involved in the passing game, which we've heard reports coming out that he's going to be more involved in the passing game. This is all just votes of confidence for me. I'm still not wild about Jay Ajayi because I see him as an injury risk. But, I mean, I think he's cementing...
Especially with more carries.
Oh, exactly. With all this, though, I think the workload and the opportunity is kind of cementing him as obviously a higher running back one. I know a lot of people are very staggered on him. Some people have him as a low-end running back one. I've seen some rankings that have him as a running back two, which I think's too low, though I understand the risk aversion there. What are your guys' thoughts? Not all at once.
Risk aversion is the main thing with Jay Ajayi. I mean, you have to be careful with this guy. He's got that history, which is why no matter what, as far as moving into this season, until he shows me he's not going to get hurt for a whole season, I'm going to keep him down in my rankings. I'm not going to shoot him up too high.
Well, I've always been a big fan of Jay Ajayi, so I wanted him to get involved more in the passing game. So hearing these reports saying that he's going to get him more involved, that he's looking smoother, all this stuff is pluses to me, and just this stuff I'm just keeping in the back of my head. I'm not too much concerned with the injury risk with him. As you guys are, I just got a little more faith in him that he can be able to hold up and do his thing in this offense, because he had great games last year when that offensive line was healthy. That boy was cooking. He was putting up some great fantasy points for me when I had him. So that's something I'm just keeping in the back of my head.
Yeah, because I mean, when we did our consensus rankings, though, with all the news we've been hearing and just the opportunity, and since I've crunched more numbers since then, I had him at 12, and I've already moved him up in my rankings. So I'll be excited to see what our consensus rankings are when we get to more finalized rankings in a couple months from now. But let's move on. I lost my tab. Oh, no.
The Baltimore Suns.
Thank you, Roy. The Baltimore Suns. I accidentally exited out. I had to bring it back up real fast. The Baltimore Suns' Jeff Zrebiec, I think is how you say it, wrote that he, quote, lost track of how many passes Danny Woodhead caught during minicamp. So, again, this is not surprising.
Ask him how many passes Wallace caught. Is he keeping track of everyone's catch count? What's going on with
Slow down, Steve. I can give these stats for you.
Hopefully, because I like stats personally. But, I mean, obviously he was brought in to play Kenneth Dixon's role, who's facing a 4-game suspension. This is what Danny Woodhead does. I'm not surprised. I don't think this is changing the role. I've heard a lot of reports and rumors that they're going to split him out wide quite a bit too. Do a lot of two backs on the field. So this is good news, but it's not surprising news. No.
They should use him that way. I mean, that's what he does best. You give him a lot of touches, he's going to do a lot of good things for your team. So it's not surprising at all.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to some wide receiver news. Where this was disappointing. Unrestricted free agent wide receiver Eric Decker signed with the Tennessee Titans on a 1-year deal. Now, I'm saying this is disappointing, not just because I was still hoping that my Ravens would go get him, because I think he'd be a great additional piece for us, but also because this has wrecked fantasy values in Tennessee. Marcus Mariota, obviously, this is a great bump for him. Yet again, another great weapon, but so many mouths to feed. We were all very high on Corey Davis. We thought he was going to come in and get a great workload. I've already bumped him down in my rankings. Richard Matthews bumped him down. Delaney Walker bumped him down. The running game, I mean, now they have more of a passing offense. Maybe you have to bump them down. I'm not really sure. I haven't adjusted them yet, because I think having a good passing game will help the run game, and we know they want to run the ball, but I don't know. I haven't really spent too much time looking at that angle. What are your guys' thoughts? What are the impacts of Eric Decker to you in Tennessee?
It's very confusing to me why this is a thing. I mean, of course, it's a money thing, and it's a great reality. This is a great situation. I mean, you're adding a veteran, type of wide receiver to a guy still coming up in the league, but high potential in Marcus Mariota. It's going to be great for that. But overall fantasy, just like you said, it's just way too many mouths to feed now there. And when we were all high on Corey Davis, his value is going to drop. Delaney Walker, you can see his value dropping too, and then especially Rashad Matthews. So it's all of this stuff is negatives on fantasy, but for Eric Decker, his value just went up. So he really goes up to bump up to that number 2 receiver for you in fantasy that you can be able to count on, because he's going to be at the right place at the right time. He's going to build a relationship with Marcus Mariota, and then it's going to show on the field that he's going to be that decent number 2 receiver for you.
Yeah, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting pickup for them because they've already got a bunch of receivers, a bunch of weapons out there. Probably the best running back tandem in football right now. And now they add Decker, and it's again, like what CJ said was perfectly correct. I mean, in reality, looking at this team, if you're a fan of the Tennessee Titans, I mean, you're rubbing your hands together, or getting all giddy, because there's just so many weapons, so many opportunities for Mariota to put that ball down the field. And I think, if anything, as you've already mentioned, Griffin, this raises Mariota's stock tremendously. I think this really gives him the opportunity to have a breakout season, and sort of like what we said with Eli Manning. If you don't succeed with the number of weapons you've got right now, you're not going to succeed. The biggest hit for me, I think, is probably Delaney Walker, who's already waning a little bit. Now you bring in Decker, who does sort of the same kind of thing as Walker does. That's rough. That's gonna drop both of their values, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, like I said, I've bumped everyone down in Tennessee already, except for Marcus Mariota, who I gave a slight bump to. I gave him especially a bump in the red zone. I think he's going to get more touchdowns now. He's just got so many weapons; they can't cover them all. So, I thought either landing spot was going to be good for Decker for fantasy purposes. It's disappointing for all the other pass catching weapons there that we've talked up in previous episodes. We were getting excited about. So we'll have to see how it plays out. Training camp will be very interesting, as will the preseason. See what roles they're going to be playing. So let's move on. No tight end news. We're gonna one bit of other news for IDP players out there. Jacksonville Jaguars cornerback Jalen Ramsey underwent a successful surgery to repair a core muscle. He's estimated to have about a 6-week recovery time, which should have him back somewhere around the start of training camp. So, Jalen Ramsey, he's had a great rookie year, but dealing with some injuries through his early career. So that's disappointing. Something to monitor. I believe, obviously the top corner in Jacksonville, I would say. So let's move on to our topic of the day, which is our league management mailbag special. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go out there and say it. We did get some feedback from last week's episode. We were getting a little hostile, and we had some fun. And for all the new listeners out there, that's just us going back and forth. We're great friends. We've known each other for a very long time. We obviously our days on how we know each other, going back to stunt work, where our lives are literally in each other's hands. So a little debate, that's nothing. So, but I'm excited because I believe we haven't gone through this because we like to have the raw takes. We talked about it a little bit, but I believe we're going to be mostly on the same page through here. So let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to start. Yikes! Not a believer, CJ. I see. No confidence from CJ. I guess we'll find out, won't we? So we'll start with Nelson from New York City, and he asks, "What is your thought on vetoing trades, and what is the best method?" We actually covered this quite extensively last offseason. I'll go into that a little bit later. I want to hear what you guys have to say first.
Well, for me personally, it's like this. I mean, we talked about this when I think in the last show when we were talking about taking advantages, and if you can be able to work a deal out where the other guy is looking pretty foolish, because why would they even make that trade and you worked out good? Hey, it's on that individual. They should have been smart enough to be able to do it. So, now a lot of everybody else in the league looks at it like that. They go like, hey, you trying to get over it. Look, if that guy wanted to make that trade, that's on him. He has to feel that, for me personally. Now if it's a repeat offender, like certain somebody I know, can be able to swindle some stuff by just washing clothes at the house, and then they get freaking Aaron Rodgers in their back pocket. That's something we got to start. We got to bring it to the table. We have to start discussing it. So for me, it depends on the person. And to me, it really boils down on the individual. For me,
Jason.
I look at vetoing of trades as sort of a nuclear option. If the trade is so obviously collusion If one player is trading a bunch of crap for, they're the top starters of another player because the other player just doesn't care anymore and they're giving up or whatever else, yeah, that you should veto. You should just be like, nope, that's not happening. No way. But otherwise, I kind of along the same lines as CJ is thinking. I'm like, look, if somebody offers you a trade and you're not smart enough to go and do the research and figure out if you're getting swindled, like I said in the last episode, don't trust anybody. Don't just hit trade. Do
Accepted.
your homework. Otherwise, you're going to end up with crap or nothing because those guys might just be injured, which that happens quite a bit. So, yeah, I completely agree. I think vetoing trades should only happen under extreme circumstances.
Yeah, we're going 3 for 3 here. I have always viewed vetoes as a way to keep the league integrity. If it comes down, and this is something we even talked about back when we were doing the warm up. If you are in a competitive league, you're not going to see a bunch of trades that you think are, someone's winning someone over or pulling a fast one, because it's not going to happen because it's competitive, and that's what makes it a good, competitive, fun league. So, I mean, as far as what method is best, that's up to you. I recommend league manager veto control for like friends and family leagues for people who aren't very serious. So, if things are getting out of hand and someone's taking advantage of someone, it's a learning kind of experience. Sure, maybe, then you have a little bit of power to keep that in check. But as a whole, it should really only be used to upkeep the integrity of the league. Where, again, if like these guys are saying, if there's collusion, obvious collusion, we've had examples of this in some of our main leagues in the past where somebody was throwing in the towel and he had another buddy in the league and he decided he was going to throw all of his top tier starters at the other guy, like 5 players at a time to get one back, which, at that point, you're not even hiding it. You've clearly thrown in the towel. Then, veto that, shut it down, and deal with that player individually. We have repercussions in our main league. That's something that we do because we take our league very seriously, and so that person that didn't go well. But again, it's for the integrity of the league, not because you're mad because someone got an awesome trade off and you're jealous because you wish it was you. Things happen, and that's if you can get an awesome trade, go for it. But just because you're upset someone else did is not a good reason to try and cancel out a trade. So, hopefully that answered the question. Let's move on. Let's see. Ken from Arlington, Virginia. He asked, what do you think the best way to make changes is in a league? I can field this one initially. I truly believe, and this is something we've touched on recently, this is what we do in our league of record. It is a purely democratic process. You don't want to be a dictator because that's not fun for everybody. Everyone wants to feel like they have a say. That's been my experience. I'm the league manager in almost every league I play, and I want to make sure everyone's having as much fun as possible. So anytime, and this is what we're doing actively right now in our big leagues, I go out, I talk to every single person individually. I find out, what did you like from last year? What would you like to see changed? Anything they want changed, I write down. I take that to every single other person in the league, and I do this for every single person as well. What do they want changed? I have to go back and forth, so it takes a while. But then we get votes from the entire league, and majority has to pass. If it's split, it doesn't pass. But that way, it's a democratic process. The majority wins, and the league moves forward, and that has been met with very good response. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's best to get everybody's opinion, and obviously it's going to depend on your league too. I mean, if your league is a specific way and it's not very competitive and everything, then maybe they don't even care about those specific things. They just want to play. And yeah, maybe you as the commissioner just make those changes on your own. But for the most part, if you're in a competitive league where these guys are going at it and gals are going at it and are really trying to beat each other every week, yeah, I definitely agree completely. Let's get those votes.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely agree, man. I think as a manager of a league, I think this is great for you to be able to, it really works on your people skills too, to be able to go talk to each individual, get their feedback on what's going on, and then be able to come to a verdict after that, tallying the votes and stuff. And then if you're just a member of the league, I think that's great to get your voice heard and just throw some stuff around your league manager, the things that you want to get changed, and bring some backing and some facts and some other info that you can be able to bring to the league to just make it more fun. I mean, nobody wants a boring league that just on and on and on does the same old stuff. So I think that's great on both ends for person that in the league, and then those that are managers.
Yeah, and I would recommend also one thing. The way I approach it is I keep everything anonymous, so that way it's purely based on what the change is, and it's not someone trying to be like, oh, such and such wanted that. Screw that guy. Well, I'm not going to vote for that just because it's him. Because you'll find people that are spiteful like that, or whatever the case may be. So take it to the league. Being a league manager is not as easy as people think it is. And, this is going to take some effort, but I mean it's fun, and hopefully you're in a league with a bunch of people you like and you have fun with, and you don't mind having a conversation with on the side. So it's just a good way to keep the league going, keep the off season rolling, and keep interaction. So that would be our recommendation. Again, unanimously, we're 2 for 2 so far, guys. This next one's a little bit more wide open, and it's a little wordy. So stick with me here. So Tommy from YouTube. I mean, that's where he says he listens. I got this from email.
You live in YouTube? That's amazing.
Yeah,
Tommy boy.
I got an email, but he says he watches on YouTube. He says, I am the league manager for my league. How would you recommend going about replacing multiple league owners in a 12-team keeper league? We keep 5 players each. I had a falling out with a friend who brought in a bunch of people into the league with him when we created the league 4 years ago. He had his friends leave when he did, and we have replacements, but we don't know what the best way is to go about assigning teams. Again, I'm trying to paraphrase this here. Would go about assigning teams would be since some teams are better than others. Okay, I get it now. So we lost 5 owners, and the other 7 of us want to keep our teams because we've put years into the league. So what's the recommended way to do this? So the majority of the league is still there. They want to keep their teams. This is a keeper league, but there are 5 new players that are coming in, so this was a mass exodus. That sucks.
Yeah.
Wow. And obviously, being a keeper league, they're going to be inheriting teams, and some are going to be much better than others. So do you guys have a recommended way that you think that they should approach this?
This is tough.
Well, here's a question: Can they go into the draft with no keepers, and those players just go back into the draft?
That's what they're trying to avoid. Doing that.
It's possible. I think the concern was
just those specific teams, not every single team, just those specific 5 teams.
Well, no, I hear you, but they didn't specify in this question. I wish I could have asked them what the keeper stipulation is, if it goes to the top of the draft or if it's kept by round. Because if it's kept by round, they wouldn't be able to do that. That's the thing. I know some people usually when multiple teams leave, if it's a non-keeper league, it's especially easy because it's just first come first serve. Sometimes people will want to just will be like, okay, you're the first one in. Which team do you want? Some leagues do that. My recommendation, and I've actually kind of in line with what Jason was saying, I've done this personally in a couple of my other leagues. We've had, never had 5 people leave, but I've had, 2, maybe 3 in one off season, which is a big turnover. But some websites allow you to do this, most don't, so you'd have to do this offline. But kind of with what Jason said, with those 3 teams, we threw all the players into a pool. And so, for instance, here it's 5 players that they get to keep. So they would do a 5-round draft. And all those players would be available for them to draft, and then all the other players go into the draft pool. You would manually, because you're the league manager, you would manually enter them into their team, so they'd have those players, and then you're good to go for your normal draft. So that should work, especially, and then you can, because depending on your keeper settings, you can. What we did. We went on their ADP, their average draft position. So we knew if you kept Odell Beckham Jr., there goes your first round pick. So on and so forth. And then obviously from there you can season after season make that adjustment. So that's what I did. Do you guys have any other recommendations? Yeah. I know that was a little bit wordy, but I was trying to make sure I expressed it properly.
I think that's a fair way to do it, and I totally agree with you on your the logic and thinking on that.
Yeah, Jason, your thoughts?
I would agree as well.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Like I said, that's kind of where I was heading with that. So, I like it.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation, but again, some websites allow you to set up things like that online, but the easiest way is to get all the guys in a room together, have the names out in front of you. Because, I do a couple draft board leagues still where it's all offline. It's not hard to do. You can do it. It just takes a little bit of time. And, again, it's an event. You get the league together. You could do this right before you do your big draft, so it throws a curveball at everybody. So it could be fun. Let's see. Jackie from Baltimore, Maryland. Hi, Jackie. Normal, snake, or auction style drafts? I mean,
Jackie, come on.
Come on.
Do
you know us at all? Obviously, normal.
Are you new?
Yeah. Normal, of course, is like an NFL draft where you would just go, row to row to row, and that's fun in like keeper leagues and stuff like that. You see that in different formats, but obviously the standard is snake. But we're all auction here. I think I can safely say that.
Yep.
Jason?
Yeah.
Yep. Unanimous.
I prefer auction.
Yeah. Auction's just so much better. And we're going to be getting into auction, like, specific episodes in the near future, I promise. We've gotten people asking about it. And, we've been focusing on snake style and all those rankings and all that stuff because that is what 98% of fantasy players do. And we get that. But you're missing out if you're not doing auction-style drafts.
I just feel like once you go auction, you just don't go back, man.
Yep.
There's no coming back after the auction, man. That's it.
We should probably move on before he starts elaborating on that.
Well, it's just that's the girth.
All right.
Okay, we're getting out of it. Okay,
moving on.
This next one, Azil, I think is how you say it, from San Antonio, Texas. He says...
Ozil.
Whatever. We are... Not whatever, sorry. I know it's your name, sorry. But I don't know. I'm bad with names. If you've listened to the show more than one episode, I'm terrible with names I don't know.
How bad he is with names.
Anyway, what are your thoughts on adding a second injured reserve spot to your rosters with the second injured reserve designated to return designation now available to NFL teams?
We like it. But Jason, Griffin, we were just talking about this last week.
Yeah, we were actually talking about this for our main league of record right now. We have one IR spot, which if you don't know what that is, essentially different websites, they allow you to use it a little bit differently. Some of them require the player to be out, and that's it. What it is, it's a spot off your roster that you can move a player into from off your bench into this spot, and then you can pick up someone else without dropping that player. Though, in order to move that person back up to your active roster, you're going to have to drop somebody. So it's literally just like the leagues, like these NFL teams have an injured reserve designated to return, so it's someone in the wings they can bring back, like the PUP list. You have that for your team. And obviously, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. The league has allowed the teams to now do this twice a year, so the option to have two of them on your fantasy team. So we were talking about this for a rule change for our league of record, and I know that we were both pretty pro this. There are obviously stipulations, and it takes away from some of the strategic drafting, but there's a whole lot of uncertainty around it because they don't have to declare the person is designated to return. All they have to say is we're moving this person to IR, and then a couple weeks down the line, if they're coming back quicker than they thought they were, the team can then say, oh, okay, we're giving them the designated to return tag and bring them back. So it's a wild card. It's a random factor. That's why you really have to know what, and we're going to be really trying to bring you guys like what is a a season-ending injury. As we break down injuries throughout the season. So it's very tricky. Jason, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I like the idea. It gives you more flexibility and the ability to not drop a player that you like that you think might come back. At the same time, you got to be smart about what you're doing, and sometimes it is best to just drop a player. I mean, I had J.J. Watt last year, and I just, done, and dropped him. But yeah, no, I do like that idea. It does give leagues a lot more flexibility.
Yeah, in our league of record, somebody dropped Adrian Peterson right after that week 2 injury, and I picked him up, and he was in my IR spot for the entire season. Ended up being a waste of use of that spot for me, but you don't know unless you try. But again, what I was getting to earlier as well.
That's what that's for.
Exactly, that's what that's for. Some leagues, the player only has to be out for that game, and you can move them down there in some websites. Other ones, they have to actually be on the physically able to perform or the IR designation to move into that slot. So check your league settings on your website. I know NFL.com, at least from my experience, requires them to actually be, off the active roster in the league, so PUP or IR. But other sites, it's much simpler, easier to stream in and out of. So we're all for this, but we understand the hesitation because it keeps people from more actively using the waiver wire and having to make these hard decisions, which on one hand is what makes it more entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
So pro. We're unanimous through 4 or 5 questions so far. That's
It's going a lot smoother than I thought it was going to be. I gotta be honest.
That's terrifying. All right, let's see if we can squeeze in 2 more.
Oh yeah,
Marcus on Twitter. Would you would you recommend playing in a free agent acquisition budget system? If so, how should I go about pitching this to my league?
Well, I think it involves a little more strategy. So, if you want to up the competitiveness of it, because me personally, it annoys the crap out of me. The old format of, they're just that bad. They automatically get that top thing. I mean, I think that's just a default. But if you made a little more strategy to it, it had that fab budget. We actually had that going on in our expert league last year. So it made it a lot more strategic, and you got to be a lot more quicker and wiser about what you want to do. Do you really want to spend this much money on this guy that might be a good 2 to 3 week plug-in? But remember, things can happen. And your boy could be gone, and then your money's going to be out of there. So that to me just adds a little more strategic things to it, and then we can make the game a lot more fun.
Yeah, it's that thing that it's like auction drafting, which is again what we're going to get to. If a player is out there that you want, you can go get them. Jason, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to agree with CJ. I mean, I do like it because it does force you to do a little bit more strategizing about what you're going to do. You can't just say, "Oh, I want this player." Boom. You actually have to assign an amount to him. I mean, this worked out in my favor. The first year we did this, I went out and got D'Angelo Williams when Le'Veon Bell went down.
Oh, that's right. You spent half your fab on him.
I did, because he was going to be the number one guy, and it worked out extremely well for me. And I wasn't the only one going for him. I think two other people in our league
I was among
were trying
them
to pick him up.
Yes.
And Griffin was among them. And I seem to have the knack for snaking these guys out from under Griffin. It's happened a couple of times.
You're not the only one. I did that to Griffin a couple of times last year. He was quite mad about that.
Remember when we talked about how much of a pain it is to draft with each other when we're doing the show? Waiver wire is arguably worse. But anyway, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, no, I mean, Cameron Brate last year was another good example. I did the same thing with him.
Yep. Jordan Howard was a great one.
What's that again?
Jordan Howard. He was a guy who was picked up off many a waiver wire, and we were talking about a lot.
Guys, absolutely. And basically, this is the thing. If you don't draft well, there's a lot of players out there that don't draft very well, but they play the waiver wire very well. They're good at picking up the right guys, especially IDP. Waiver wire is so important for IDP because it's such these are volatile positions. So you need to be able to do your homework and play that waiver wire really well. And that budget is just another little kink in there that you need to go, okay, should I just say I want this person, or should I throw some money at it and use some of this budget? And if you're smart, you'll know there's certain players that no one's going to look at that you want to pick up, and you don't have to spend any money on them. And then there's other players like a D'Angelo Williams that you're going to spend a little bit of money and get some nice return.
Yeah, and like I was kind of saying as well, it's not like your waiver priority system where you have waiver priority, you get the guy. To me, that's strategy. That's waiting to snipe the guy when because some majority standard way that works. You don't use it, you move up the list every week and week. Other leagues will set it up where the waiver priority is set inverse to the standing. So whether you use your waiver wire or not the previous week, it's going to your status on the waiver wire is going to change. It doesn't matter. You can't move up the rankings that way. And those are strategies, and that's fine. I get that, and I still obviously I personally play in more leagues than not that still do that because Fab is not super widespread yet, which I believe it should be. But Fab gives you that opportunity, just like auction. Like I said, if there's a player that you want, you can go get him. Now, I will put this out there. Free agent acquisition budget is a silent auction. Now, different websites do this differently, but as a whole, you go out, you make a bid, and then when waivers clear on generally that's Wednesday mornings, you will find out who got the player, because, whoever has the high bid will win. And some websites will show you what the high bid was. Other ones you have to go in and do a little bit of investigating. Some of them will show you what everybody else's bid was. Others will not. So that's kind of a pain. I know NFL.com does not show you what other people bid, but other websites do. So, but it's very, very cool. It's strategic. It keeps you engaged. It requires you to do your homework, to know the value of a player, the opportunity of a player, and of course, gives you a chance to still interact with your league mates and kind of gauge their interest in a player, and maybe think about, okay, well, such and such is a fan of that team. He might know more. He's probably going to bid more. I have to bid higher to have a chance at him, or however it plays out. Now, as far as how should you go about pitching this to your league, we've done a breakdown of this multiple times on the show, so you can have them listen to this. But I think the easiest way is to kind of explain it. I kind of like how I did, with how it's much more engaging, it's much more strategic, it's a lot more fun, and it gives you just the opportunity to be engaged more during the week leading up to, obviously, Thursday Night Football and the weekend of actually playing fantasy. What do you guys think? What would you recommend him? I mean, obviously, I would approach this democratically as well. And maybe your league mates don't know anything about Fab, and you're going to have to explain it to them and kind of plant that seed and talk to them for a little bit, get their reaction, answer their questions before bringing it to your league manager. Or in this case, if you are the league manager, it's your job to kind of explain it to everybody and get make sure they understand what's going on. What are your guys' thoughts?
I mean, I agree with you. I think first, one thing is, him to go to the person to go to the league manager, and then, suggest, what we were just talked about. And then second, allow that manager to think it over. If he likes it, then, he can bring it to the vote to everybody else. Another a good thing about it, if you guys have like a Facebook page or whatever like that, or a Facebook group, then you can be able to bring it up there. Cause like, hey guys, this is the thought I had about the thing that we can add to next year's, our fantasy team, our fantasy league. What do you guys think about this? Then you can be able to get a good feedback from everybody else about it. But I think you should go first. Goes to the league manager. If he goes like, I don't really know, I'm on the fence about it. Then bring it up to the rest of the league and let the league be able to think about it. So I think those are the two things you can be able to do that's good without ruffling any feathers, and then you can be able to get more favor on your side.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, having listened to the show, that's the best way. I mean, we break it down pretty in depth on how we do it and how well it works and everything. But the other thing is obviously letting them know that it really gives you a lot more flexibility. Like we mentioned, if you go just on the waiver system and who's higher and who's lower. Like CJ said, if the team stinks, they're always going to get first crack at all the best free agents, But let's say that you're a top team and you're about to lose somebody. It gives you the flexibility to spend a little bit of that fab budget and go out and get someone who can keep you competitive. So, let them know it allows you to be more flexible. That's what everybody wants, is that flexibility.
Also, we go the extra mile to incentivize as far as the season goes, where since we play auction drafts and to keep prices in check, we have a system where any of your remaining auction budget will then transfer into your free agent acquisition budget. So it's a way to have more money and more control throughout the season. As far as we're concerned, once the draft starts, the season is on. So it just is fluid throughout. And I believe we're going to have an article up in the next couple of weeks explaining Fab kind of in depth like we have right now, so you can defer them to the website in the not too distant future. And what are we doing on time? Okay, we're doing okay. This final question, because I think this is the last one we'll have time for, I had to throw in because kind of like we've been talking about auction and Fab and all the stuff that we really like to do. That's why we picked these questions, of course. What is your ideal roster composition? And this could go a lot of ways. But I'm going to defer to you guys first.
As far as like the league, like each team, what they look like?
No, as far as the roster, like how many at each position? Quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, how many flexes, so on and so forth.
I thought this was in it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Pretty straightforward question.
Right.
Oh, shade.
No, I wasn't. I thought it was a question of how
Jason,
many running backs.
Don't you take that shade from that man.
Did I mention that this was Russ in Tampa Bay, Florida? I just want to point that out there. Hi, Russ.
Hey, Russ.
He did not.
Rusty.
Okay, hi, Russ.
Hey, Russ.
All right.
All right. Yeah, I like the way our league of record is structured.
I love that
for the most part. yeah, I do like the way that's structured. It's, especially when you get into IDP. Look, in my opinion, the best possible league is one that takes into account every single player, and that gives you IDP options like having, I think it's what is it, 2 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, 3 defensive backs, a flex defensive position.
For our league of record.
And then in your, is that correct or am I wrong?
Our league of record is 11-man defense. We have 3 linemen, 3 linebackers, 4 defensive backs, and then 1 flex. So you can get another linebacker, lineman, defensive player. Yeah.
Right. My bad. I haven't even looked at it yet. But yeah, I love that. I love when you have that much flexibility with IDP, and then with the offense, again, just I always want a flex. I always love to have a flex. And I like flexes that are tight end, receiver, and running back. So if you want to put a tight end, I'd never put a tight end in there. I'd never ever put a tight end in that flex position. But if you want to do that, if you really love a tight end and you happen to have 2 really good ones, or 3 in this case, then yeah, you go right on ahead. But if you look at the rest of your composition, 1 quarterback, obviously, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers. That flex position, so you can pick a wide receiver or running back to throw in there as well. We have 1 tight end, right?
2 tight ends in our league of record.
We have 2 tight ends in our league of record. That's right. 2 tight ends. For me, I could really deal with just 1 tight end. I don't really need 2 tight ends, especially given how volatile that position is and how scarce good tight ends are. So that's kind of the one thing that I would probably change about our league of record. Otherwise, I really like the way we're set up.
All right.
Me personally, I like just like so the whole rundown Jason said. I agree with the tight end part. I can keep that. I like that because it tells me, if you're not that good at picking tight ends, you got to get better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you are, you can be able to scout it. Like my whole thing about OJ Howard, I could pick a tight end that I like for sure, that I know that's good in the offense. Then I could take a risk on an OJ Howard and put him in my second tight end spot, and rotate that out whoever I want. So it's a little more work with that position, having 2 tight ends there, because the scarcity on that, the people that actually perform and you want to keep your eye on. But overall, I like it, man. I like it. If we're IDP aholics like we are, I definitely like the fact that we have a full IDP roster that is freaking incredible, especially if you got an eye for defenses, you can be able to take advantage of that.
Oh,
and,
yes.
Pick up corners I mean, we're gonna have a whole show dedicated to that, but just to know a difference between a corner that's gonna get you points versus a reality shutdown corner. Those guys you definitely want to stay away from versus corners that that get involved on defenses when it comes to tackles, interceptions, defensive breakups. Those guys, should you load up on true corners or should you go safeties and free safeties? They got a little more points when you go those routes. So, it's a lot more. I don't want those little teaser. We're going to get into that in a later episode, I know for sure. But that I like the current format that we have, and that is a full, roster on offense and definitely on defense.
Yeah. If you listen to the Patreon show, which we put out live on iTunes and Stitcher as well, most recently where we covered IDP and defensive linemen, recapping the performances and reviewing, so on and so forth. Yeah, we covered a lot of that, the basis of it. We're going to go more in depth for like an overview, like CJ was saying, in a soon upcoming future episode for everybody that is new to it. Obviously, our big league of record, I think, is set up the way we ideally like it, which is what we've all been saying. We do 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. So again, more depth of the position. 2 tight ends. So again, more depth you have to know at the position. Then we have 1 super flex. Well, it's not a super flex because it doesn't have quarterback. It's running back, wide receiver, or tight end flex. Then I get, like I said, 3 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, 4 defensive backs, 1 defensive player flex. So you can do the 4-3, 3-4, or the nickel defense kind of concept. But we don't. That's ideal for us. because we like to go that far because we're crazy. But I would say if you want to try and mimic that on an easier level, I would recommend if you're new to IDP, which we talked about, you can do 1 or 2 at each position. Do your standard format, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a flex, tight end, kicker, defense, if you want to. You don't need the defense, obviously, if you're doing IDP. That's kind of the point. You can do either 2 defensive linemen, 2 defensive backs, 2 linebackers, maybe a flex if you want to. And you could do it that way, or you could do completely standard. And the easiest way to ease into it, like we talked about, is completely standard with 1 defensive IDP flex. So it can be just any 1 defensive player, just to ease you into that mentality, because it's a learning curve. It's different. So different people are at different levels of understanding of the way the defense works, what to look for, what's an opportune player to be getting for scoring. Big names aren't always good things on the defensive side, and that's stuff that we covered recently. We're going to go more in depth on soon. So that's ideal for us, our big crazy league. And if you want to try and do something like that, that would be what I recommend. So that's going to do it for us today. So please make sure you guys tune in on Friday, where we will be doing some ADP price checks. There are, obviously, with players signing certain places and just knowing what we know, what may not be what the masses of people who are mock drafting right now know, there are some players who are going either way too early or way too late. So we're going to talk about some of that and what's kind of surprising us and standing out. Obviously, we did some mid-round players that stood out to us very recently, so this will be a little bit more of that if you like that show, which we got a lot of good feedback on. And remember, if you want to play against us in one of these fantasy leagues, all you have to do is head over to iTunes, give us a rating, give us a review, and you will be automatically entered into a chance to be randomly selected to play against us in fantasy football. So, hey, bring it on. Remember, subscribe to the show. iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a like. The ratings and reviews help us out a ton. And just keep tuning in. We're here every single Tuesday and Friday. Or on Facebook. Join the community at facebook.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. We're on Twitter, as I mentioned, at the FF Fanatics. Or you can follow us individually. I'm at GPalmerFFF. CJ's at CJHickman89. Jason is at Jason Cabrera 13. And again, if you want to support the show, go a little bit further. We got some new subscribers this week. Head over to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Get yourself that bonus show every single week. This week, well, obviously last week we covered defensive linemen. We're moving into linebackers, so that should be a lot of fun. And any parting thoughts before we sign off, guys?
Guys, first of all, I just want to just appreciate all the love you guys are showing on the YouTube page. I know you're just looking at Griffin, but that is absolutely amazing.
All right, so we are out of here, everyone. Take care. Have a great week, and we'll see you on Patreon. If not, we will see you on Friday. Take care. Bye.
Life in the fast lane.